Meeting the Dancer. How I discovered who my mom really was at 94. I finally sat down to the drudgery of sorting old family photographs. What's this? Wow, damn, it's my mom. But how could this be? In my childhood, she seemed so closed down, so unavailable, almost invisible. But here she was, stylish, confident, even glamorous. I realized there must have been a life of hers I had never really known about. Before marrying my dad, she loved to dance. She attended lively parties on the windward side of the Big Island. And once, years later, she reflected that perhaps she had married the wrong man. Maybe she should have chosen the town's piano teacher because he loved to dance. My sister, Trish, and I have pieced together things we had never understood as kids about our parents. Mom divorced her first husband because he was verbally abusive and because 4 of his 5 teenage daughters shunned her. And then there was our dad. He was handsome, talented, socially charming, literally a big man on campus. But within our family, he could be verbally abusive. Trish overheard him saying to Mom, "Shut up, you stupid woman." Or to Trish and me, saying we were the most mediocre kids he could think of. Huh? Well, we all lived with this painful flux in our lives. We learned Mom couldn't swim, yet she went on our rough sailing trips between the Hawaiian Islands. She, hunched under a huge floppy hat, wedged into the lower corner of the cockpit, disconnected from sailing, looking forlorn and miserable. Looking back, it's easy to see how a woman already struggling with depression might retreat into her own world. But whatever the cause, she was often walled off and disconnected from Trish and me. I remember one morning when I didn't want to go to elementary school. I wasn't sick, just overwhelmed. My, unbeknownst to me, ADHD was probably kicking up again. So I told my mom I felt sick and wanted to stay home. Okay, take it easy, stay in bed. Damn, what I had really wanted was a connection and direction with Mom, not passivity. Around the age of 14, some local teens harassed me while I was riding my bike. Shake and I rode home and told Mom. She shrugged. Well, you got home okay, right? That was about it. More of my lonely childhood, wanting a real connection and direction for most of my life. Years later, when Mom was 86 and still driving, we faced a dilemma. She had begun clipping a couple of the neighbors' side mirrors on their cars on her way home. But chance intervened. My daughter, Shanti, had been borrowing her grandmother's car when the engine seized. The car had to be towed home. The mechanic confirmed the engine was done. Suddenly, we had the perfect excuse. As a photographer, I still carry a small guilt about that day. Mom watching her car and her freedom being towed away. Several years later, my sister called. "If you want to see Mom before she goes, you'd better come now." So hurriedly, my wife and I flew into Phoenix. She was in her care home, sitting upright in her wheelchair, snappily dressed, hat in hand. "Hi," she said. "Now, get me out of this goddamn place." So much for dying. That was the beginning of a remarkable 10-day road trip through Arizona. Mom celebrated her 94th birthday at every hotel, restaurant, and roadside cafe we stopped at. She had astonishing energy and clarity. Hospice workers call this brief return of lucidity the rally. Well, Mom's rally lasted weeks. During that time, we met a woman neither of us had ever known. From budget hotels to Denny's restaurants, from a tourist train ride to the vastness of the Grand Canyon, Mom was sharp, she was quick, and she was hilarious. On that last marvelous road trip, I got to meet the dancer, and at last, connection.